What's happening, Mike? How are you, buddy?
Hey, I'm doing well. How are you guys doing?
Well, we're
Doing
still
good.
picking up the pieces. We're doing well. We're picking up the pieces from game one. I guess we can start there, Mike. What went through your head as you watched that game unfold the other night?
Um, that Toronto is living up to its reputation, and so is Tampa Bay. Um,
Yeah.
that's kind of what it was, right? This is the first time in 6 years I've picked Toronto to win their first round series. I haven't loved the way they've filled out their roster for the playoffs in years past, and I thought there was enough separation this year. I think there is still between what the Leafs are and where Tampa Bay's at. And look, they come out and have a great game too, and even this series, everyone's swung the other way again, right? So it's not a huge deal, but I couldn't believe. I shouldn't say I couldn't believe. I was surprised that the Maple Leafs looked as terrified as they did of the moment, and they looked nervous and hesitant. Um, and then I think right off the bat, like Toronto can be guilty sometimes of overthinking things and thinking, we're just going to do what we need to do or what we think we need to do, and we'll win regardless of what else happens. And like I go to that line change, the Tavares, Nylander, O'Reilly line starts, and then the Matthews line jumps on for 5 seconds. There's a D zone draw. Fourth line comes out for Tampa, so Sheldon Keefe goes to his fourth line. Like you'd think maybe leave Matthews' line on there, let them have a favorable matchup, get into the rhythm of the game, and then there's your first goal of the game on an Aston Reese turnover, and away it goes. So that was about as bad as it gets for Toronto in that game for sure.
Mike, what do you see? Like you say, you've never picked them before, and this is a team where the roster, it looks as well rounded as it has before, and we know what the Toronto market is. The sky was absolutely falling yesterday, and tomorrow it could be back on the parade train. Obviously, everything's amplified in that market, but break that game down. Like, how bad was that? There was no shining moments top to bottom. And what do you think with a roster that's capable of doing what they did for 82 games? I mean, you can go back to 2013 or this or that and their playoff woes. It's not even the same group of people. What is it about that wearing that sweater and not being able to get it done in the playoffs? Is it the market? Like, how do you have that bad of a game with that good of a team when it matters the most?
Well, they're cursed, clearly, right? So you got to overcome that. There has to be something to it. The pressure, the market, the ghosts of years past. Like you can't ignore that when you watch them come out and play that first period the way they did. It has to be a real thing. It was a little surprising. Like I didn't expect it, but that's what it is. And there's got to be a lot of weight there. Like I think Toronto, if all things are equal, if they started on the road, that would have been way better for them than starting at home in this series, where all the pressure, oddly enough, is not on the team that's won a couple cups and went to a final last year. It's on the team that hasn't won anything in almost 20 years. So it's a strange dynamic and situation for sure. And again, they've got the players capable of doing it. They came back in the game. They got it close for a second, and then it all went south again. So I know there's Leaf fans that are on the refs, and there were 4 power play goals for Tampa. Tampa also outscored Toronto at even strength. So it wasn't what decided the game by any means. But, Michael Bunting's a guy who's a passionate player and grew up in the area. Obviously, wearing that sweater means a lot to him. He got a little overexcited and made a bad play. Now he's gone. So we'll see what happens in game 2. But I just, the thing that would concern me is the things that have hurt this team in the past were all there in game 1. Just tight sticks, nervous, little chip outlet plays that end up going right back down your throat again, where it's like you don't always have to make that possession play into the middle of the ice. Smack it off the board sometimes. Just get it out. Couple of those. So we'll see. We'll see if what they've learned going into game 2.
It's funny, Mike, like for the better part of the last month, pretty much since the trade deadline, we've been talking ad nauseum how Sheldon Keefe has been jumbling his lines up like crazy. Well, here's a chance for that to benefit, right? You lose Bunting, Matthew Nyes comes in, looks like he's going to play with Ryan O'Reilly and Nola Chari on the third line, if you want to call it that. You think spreading the wealth is the way to go for the Maple Leafs, specifically against a team like Tampa, knowing some of the injuries that team has right now too?
Yeah, it's a good point. And I think after game one, it's absolutely the right call. Just again, like how much the bottom six won for Tampa against Toronto, especially the fourth line for Tampa Bay. When that line with Perry on it, who had 3 points in the game, was up against Toronto's bottom six, it's only a handful of minutes, and they outshot them 5-1 from the slot. They scored a goal. That was decisive in that game. The big take the power play away where all the stars play, but at even strength, the bigs for Tampa Bay wasn't necessarily what decided the game. It was down in the lineup as well. So I think you have to have O'Reilly after that game in the 3-hole so you can balance things out a little bit. And, I heard you guys talking as well about Justin Hall and his struggles. Luke Schenn didn't have a great game either. Timothy Liljegren sitting there. Like, how do you solve all of that? I think you could do it in one fell swoop, which is to do what Edmonton did last night. Go 11-7. And, that way you can get Liljegren in, move him around as you see fit in optimal situations, take some minutes away from the other guys who struggled a little bit in game one, and look no further than Edmonton's first goal in the game last night, where it's Draisaitl double shifting with a couple of guys down in the lineup, with Derek Ryan scoring the goal. You can do that with Toronto's big guys too and get those favorable matchups. So I like O'Reilly in the 3 spot. I thought maybe they'd really consider going 11-7, which I think would help solve even a few more problems for the Maple Leafs.
Yeah, I thought that was an option too. And same thing, watching that Oilers game, it was like, wow, look at this. You got those big boys, and it just allows them to keep the 4 lines rolling, but keeping your big stars out on the ice and giving them more opportunity to do exactly what Draisaitl did last night. Moving on, like between the pipes with Samsonov, I mean, to play as well as he has, I mean, everyone's talking about, Vasilevsky versus him, and his numbers were better this year, and he's been put in pressure spots, and he's been tested, and it's not like it was just a fly by night thing that he had a season. He showed that he can play, and he's poised, and he just looked completely out of sorts, albeit he didn't have much help in front of him. What's your level of concern between the pipes here tonight?
A little higher than game one, where I really didn't have much at all.
Yeah.
His playoff record isn't great. And his regular season, to your point, Jay, it was awesome. His numbers were right there with Vasilevsky. So we know Vasilevsky dials it up a notch in the playoffs. And I don't think, and for me, like, it wasn't even about Samsonov having to be better, because I don't think the games by and large are going to be even or tilted in Tampa's favor. I think Toronto in most games, as they did at even strength, even though the score didn't show it, the way the game was played, it favored Toronto. They're going to get more chances. They're going to get better looks, certainly at even strength. So he doesn't have to be better. He just has to be better than he was, for sure. So I look, even if all things were equal, Matt Murray's healthy, they've got their 2 top guys ready to go, I'd still go back to Samsonov, because I would have that belief in him. Now, if it doesn't go well again, now you're in big trouble, because you don't have Matt Murray. And that was something that people talked about at the trade deadline. And I know some analysts were adamant about, go get another guy, because we don't know if we can count on Matt Murray to be healthy. And Samsonov, as good as he's been, hasn't proven it in the playoffs. What happens if one guy, Samsonov, isn't going well enough and you don't have the other guy? And, either they didn't do it, obviously, and with the cap and bringing guys in, who knows if they even could have. They're masters of the salary cap, but didn't happen. So, I think he'll be better. I'm a believer in the guy, but he kind of, to me, wore a little bit what the Leafs team did in general, which is they looked like they weren't up for the size of that moment when the game started.
Yeah, they look like a team that the switch flipped, and it's like, oh shit, it's a Stanley Cup playoffs. Here we go, and they got all jittery. You got like a billion guys. Yeah, no, that's right? A story too. You're right.
Yeah. And I thought the Leafs had a really good opportunity, because, somewhat early in the game, Cernak and Hedman are both gone. And I thought they were thin on defense to begin with. Like, that leaves Sergachev is like a great defenseman, but they're only one, really.
Yeah.
So there was opportunity. There'll be opportunity there tonight if Hedman can't go, especially. I mean, if there's no Hedman and no Cernak, and they don't come out on top in this game, like, that would be tough to imagine. And then you got to win 4 out of 5 with a lot of games left in Tampa Bay.